Coach, as time goes by faster and faster, we're getting a lot older, but here we are again.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm excited to be here, and it's that time of year. And it seems like that annual trek you make, and it's kind of the process you go through to get ready for the season.
Yeah, a little shorter trek this year, just coming to Atlanta. I got to ask you though, going through the media days, will there be a different focus on the University of Georgia than in the past?
You know, I think there's always a lot of attention to the University of Georgia. It's such a great state, and it's a great university, but probably a little more special this year, having won the SEC, and there's always expectations, so I don't think that changes. I mean, everybody expected us to win the East even last year, so I don't think that changes. I just think the aspect of we had a good team and had some good leaders, and we can't rest on that.
No.
And humility is always right around the corner, and we know that.
Is there going to be a special circle on other team schedules where it says UGA?
Sure. I mean, I certainly think that you're playing the reigning SEC champion, you're going to get everybody's best, but that's not something that we have to prepare differently for. We prepare our best, and it really only matters what we do, and we're concerned with what we do. So all I think is that's in the back of your mind, because you know that you got to be at your best each week. But if you're a true competitor, you want to do that anyway. I don't think that past success guarantees future success. I think that what you do in the past and that experience allows your players to grow and develop from that. So we'll use the positive from the fact that if we continue to do the little things right, practice hard, compete, and we continue to do things at the standard that the last group set, then we can expect to have some success. But we're not going to have success because of what we did last year.
And that's the question then. You talked about last year's team and the leadership and the way they conducted themselves and went about their business. Are you seeing that in what you've seen so far of this year's team? Are you seeing that being passed forward and that baton being accepted?
Well, I think in a different way. I don't think they can be that group. We don't want to force them into a role that they may or may not be comfortable with. I think they're doing it their way. They're taking ownership in it their way, and I appreciate that. I know that it's hard to live in somebody else's shadow and do it the way they did it. All I want is the same production, standard, effort, those toughness, all those critical factors that are so important to our success. But if they go about it a different way and if different guys are leading, I certainly think that's good for us.
You know, I notice everybody talks about Georgia. Well, they got this many starters returning on offense, and they got to fill this many holes on defense because they lost this many players. You don't look at it that way, because you look at it as 22 jobs up for grabs every week.
Well, sure. I mean, I think that we're probably going to have the most competitive environment we've had because we have the most depth. I don't know if we're the most talented as we've been, but we certainly have the most depth we've had. So that allows us to create competition at every position, to move people, to really practice with the right kind of toughness, because we want to get the iron sharpens iron, and we want to make sure that we have this team ready to compete this year.
What have you seen of the newbies that you like?
Well, the biggest thing I like is the reports we're getting from the academic people. I mean, that they're on time, it's important to do things the right way, going to class, doing all those things right. I think that's really important, because that gives you a foundation that you can now grow and develop as a player.
Let's talk a little bit about Jake Fromm and his development, and you've had a chance to be around him some this summer. Do you see a difference in him now with a year under his belt?
Well, I think I saw some of that in the spring. I mean, I think that he leads by example. He's gotten a little more vocal with what he's done. He's more assertive with the wideouts. He's coaching people out there. You know, he's helping, you know, our second and third quarterback. I mean, he takes ownership in that role. And I think that's really important for that position, because everybody turns and looks at that guy. I certainly think that Jake Fromm can take care of himself. Simple conversations, really. I talked to his dad, and I texted with him, but I don't know if you call them late mishaps. I mean, they're kids being kids. Now, the difference is you know about them. Take that 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and I'm at University of Georgia, and there's 7 of us that all room together, and we're all out on the water doing something. None of y'all would know. So why do you know exactly what happened? Because of social media. So that's the only difference. We're acting like this is a big deal. It's only a big deal because you know about it. Things like this happen all the time that you don't know about. And we had guys with broken arms and broken feet and broken wrists and broken hands in the summer when I played that nobody even knew about. There was no microscopic coverage of them. So I'm not going to stop letting a young man live. I think it's great that he goes out and does those things. I think it's awesome because that means he's not sitting at home playing Fortnite all day. I mean, he's socializing, he's going out, he's doing things. I mean, he wasn't on a wakeboard. People think that he wasn't on a wakeboard. He got hit by one on his hand. So
yeah, Coach, y'all got J.R. Reed here with you today. Were you at all surprised by his impact last year, and what are your expectations of him going forward?
I don't know that I was surprised by his impact last year. I was more surprised by when we got him. We didn't know for sure how good a player. We certainly were going to invest a scholarship in him to transfer, as we thought he was pretty good. But we didn't know what we had coming in. He not only is he bright, tough, physical, he's awesome to be around. He's very intelligent. Education's important to him. He recognizes that an NFL career is not guaranteed. He had a dad that played for a long time in the NFL, and I mean, his parents have been tremendous. I mean, support for him. They've been advocates for our program. So we've really been blessed. We kind of fell into that one. But his impact has been great. The expectation is to come out and compete and lead. I mean, the reason I decided to bring him today is the leadership qualities he showed towards the end of the year. When you come into a place and you sit out a year, you're still kind of establishing credibility among the team. Then you play for a year, you establish credibility, and now you start leading towards the end of the year. We need him to be that guy that when things aren't going well can maybe make a play or get guys going in the right direction. So. Any room with Roquan, so I figured that might rub off on him. Yeah, I think the expectation, which I talked about in the other room, we don't run from pressure. Pressure is a privilege, and that's the way we look at it. We've earned the right to have pressure, to have expectations on our program. That's no different at running back. Sony and Nick had huge expectations from Gurley and Marshall. Gurley and Marshall had huge expectations from all the guys that played prior to them. So, you know, my expectation is to get the most out of those backs and use their skill sets the right way. We've got some tremendously talented players. I mean, I've seen Brian Herring, Holyfield, and Swift make runs the same caliber of Nick and Sony. They just haven't done it in the same consistency. They haven't done it in the same environments. They can do it. I mean, they go against one of the better defenses in the SEC every spring game, every scrimmage. People don't acknowledge that those three young men are really those two, Holyfield and Herring. They went almost every rep last spring when Sony and Nick didn't play in scrimmages. Those guys did it all. So I've seen them do it. I know they can do it. The expectation for me is to go out there and just cut loose and go play. I don't like comparisons. I think it's unfair to compare where I was to where I am. I think that's hard to measure because there's so many other critical factors that outside of that. Now, are we in a better place than we were when we arrived? Yeah, I just mentioned out there that I think the 110 players we bring into camp on August 3rd, we're going to have more depth than we've had. We might not have as much talent. We might not have three first-rounders. But what we have is a lot of competition at a lot of positions. So we've been able to improve that through recruiting, through development, through walk-on program, and we want to continue to do that. What is the expectation of you guys of Georgia? Well, everybody says win the SEC East every year. Go win the SEC, compete for national championships. That was here when I arrived, and that's still here. So I don't let that control my thoughts and priorities and mindset. I'm really more focused on individual things we can do to make our players better. But it is a privilege. We've earned that pressure, that right to have that pressure, and I tell our players all the time, it's how you embrace it. It's how you think about it. If you let it control you, then it may affect your outcome. If you just go to your day-to-day habits and compete the right way, then you don't let pressure affect you. You know, it's funny. I had a note somebody sent me that said, having the success you had does not make it easier to achieve this year. No past indicators will allow you a free pass. There's no magic pill. It takes what it takes is what we say. But the experience that our players were able to have going through that stretch run, I think will draw confidence, not false bravado, but confidence in big games that we have in the future. So that part excites me, but there's nothing that we did last year we're going to be able to rest on because that's not the way football works.